Aloha and welcome to Spirit Chat Radio. So I decided to take a break today from recording my Empath U classes, or that's not true. I took a break for like 45 minutes so I could do this podcast for you on Mercury Retrograde because it's causing a lot of havoc for some people. And if I don't do a podcast on it, everybody starts emailing me going, "Where's your podcast on this?" So I thought we'd go ahead and do that. I've had a few emails already. That being said, before I get into that, I wanted to again mention the Psychic Ability class special that I'm running before it goes into Empath U, because there's so much going on with Empath U right now. Things are kind of getting crazy because we're really gearing up to release this class. And I've had the most huge response to this, how happy that people are that they were worried about spending the money and they could not believe how happy they were when they got in. It was totally worth the money, especially if you don't feel like you have the money and you do the $35 a month plan. It is super affordable. And that plan people are definitely taking advantage of. You can also pay in full, but normally that plan is like $50 a month. It's $35 right now for 12 months. I've never run this special before, but I'm getting so many grateful emails that I wanted to keep it open a little bit longer in case some of you have missed this special or didn't know that it was being run. So I'll post that stuff below, but definitely keep in mind this is a limited time thing as we're moving and transitioning over. So definitely check it out if you're at all interested in the ability stuff. Now, and also because it goes hand in hand with the empath course that I'm getting ready to release, but you can do them separately and you don't have to do one before the other, so it doesn't really matter. The reason I'm kind of suggesting this one is because it's on such a ridiculously good deal. That being said, I got an email of somebody who asked me about these energy reports, and I thought it was really funny or interesting that they kind of were wondering, how do you come up with these? What is happening? Are these, you're so right on all the time, and I get a lot of that. How are you doing this? Is this astrologically related, or how do you receive these energy reports that you do? And I never really thought about that before. So that's the funny part, that I was like, I guess I just got them in and never really thought about it. So I had to go back to when did I start getting the information on these energy reports, and how did that whole process start? How did I just start doing this? Well, what had happened was I am a very strong empath, as you know. That's why I teach about all the empath stuff. I've developed my empath abilities to a really heightened level. And as an empath that has really strong developmental skills, but also I'm a very strong empath, while I was filtering through a lot of the information that I'm currently doing for my Empath U course, and so developing my system, I guess I would say, to become healthier and just feel stronger and not feel such a victim, I guess I would say, to my ability. Over the years, as I've learned to develop these systems that I work with now, I've gotten really good at being able to separate or understand or feel with my development skills what type of energy is around me. And I would notice at certain times that the energy, the universal energy that was going on around me was greatly affecting my life. And these are all things that you need to know being an empath if you want to not feel like you're just on this roller coaster of emotions and stress and then freaking out and then feeling like, oh my gosh, my whole life is in havoc, and then, oh, there's some calm waters. It's helpful to your brain when you can separate that feeling as not your own feeling and really compartmentalizing it to the energy that you're reading at the time. So anyways, I got really good at reading universal energy, and that would be energy that's, planetary and all that as well. And so when I started noticing that I was having a lot of hiccups in a week or something, I would tune into the energy and I would read it for myself. And I would read like, okay, what's going on with this energy right now? What is not mine? What is really attached or weaved into this universal energy? And then after I did that for a while, I mean, it was incredibly helpful. It helped me separate, compartmentalize, and not be so attached to what was going on, and actually not to feel hopeless. Because a lot of times when you have a wave coming through, it starts to make you feel like, you know, you don't have any, like there's no light at the end of the tunnel sometimes. And is it going to stay this way? And are things changing for the worse? Or are they going to get better? It can create a lot of fear and worry. And so I started doing energy reports or explaining it to other people because I noticed a pattern with friends and family. I noticed that they were experiencing the exact same stuff I was experiencing, only, you know, situational to their current situation. And so when I would tell them about it, they would be like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you told me. This is so helpful. Like, I feel relieved just knowing that it is not something pertaining to my very specific situation. So I started reading the energy out further and, kind of just reading planetary, like using my ability and reading it out further. And I was finding that it was always accurate, and it was something that most all the people were going through at the same time. So that's my story. That's kind of what I do. I use my empath ability. It started to just kind of help calm my own fears and worries and be able to stay focused and keep strong. And then I noticed it was beneficial to everybody because everybody was experiencing this same universal energy. And then so I started talking about it and explaining it to people and what was going to happen with it. And then everybody just was very happy. And that's kind of that story. So as I get into developing even more classes for Empath U, not just the first one on how to live a healthier, happier life, which I will touch upon some of these types of things, I'm also going to do a development course for empaths, which will be a secondary course to that, which will definitely teach you how to do a lot of this type of stuff. And so anyways, that's just one other wonderful gift of being an empath, right? But it really is a wonderful gift of being an empath, because as I'm getting into these courses with Empath U, I'm realizing that when I teach about having empath abilities, I'm noticing a lot of people don't know what to do with their empath abilities. Basically, first of all, we need to get everybody learning how to manage it and feeling good. That's first, and that's a huge, huge, huge portion of it. But then after you learn how to manage it and you can kind of feel really strong and healthy, then I notice that not everybody utilizes it to the best of their ability in a way to enhance their life. So yeah, we're going to be getting into all that stuff in Empath U. But now it's time to get into Mercury Retrograde, because I'm sure you're super excited about this as well as everybody else. So one of the first things that I definitely notice with this Mercury Retrograde and this energetic shift is there's a lot of low vibration spirits coming through with this. The vibration is tending to be lower than it normally is. And when that happens, a lot of times you'll notice really kind of messed up dreams, or you'll feel like, irritated, which we're going to get to. A lot of stuff will come through in your dreams, or if you're feeling like you're working on a project when you're having a lot of low vibration spirits around you. So I guess we don't even really need to get into that too much. It's because you probably know. You're probably either feeling like you're having a lot of roadblocks that are kind of popping up where you wanted things to flow fluidly, or they were flowing more fluidly, or it doesn't make sense of why they're not. And or dreaming. That's the two places you're going to notice them a lot. I've noticed them in both places because, of course, I'm creating a class during Mercury Retrograde, which I'll get to the why on that part as well, and a lot of low vibration energies during my dreams. So you will want to definitely do some clearings. You will want to clear your bedroom, clear your space, clear everything with, incense, sage, that type of thing. You can clear energy by just, keeping things non-cluttered, because we don't want any of this weird low vibration energy to stick, and it doesn't move out very well, especially with the universal energy when you have clutter. It will not flow in and then out your house. It will flow in and then get stuck and ping pong around into clutter. So you definitely want to address those two things. And the other thing that happens when we're having something like a Mercury retrograde, but it doesn't always happen with Mercury retrograde. But with Mercury retrograde, because people have asked me this before, is when Mercury will actually be slowing down. We're in the pre-shadow. It starts to slow way down. Then when on Mercury retrograde, it actually stops and starts to go backwards, and that's the retrograde part, right? And it does that for a little while. The planet goes backwards. And as you can understand, when an energy starts to slow down and then sort of stop and then move backwards before it stops again and then moves forward, just think about that energetically, how that's going to correlate to your life, because it will. It will make things feel like projects that you're working on or different things that you want to happen, deadlines that you have happening. It will, during this time, it's going to feel like everything, the process of everything is starting to slow down. And it's going to feel like, why is this slowing down? And it can make people feel very nervous and worried. And then when it starts to go backwards, it feels like you're pushing against energetic mud. And so when Mercury retrograde, when it actually starts to go into retrograde, because this is called the pre-shadow phase, is on the 31st of October, which is going to be super easy for everybody to remember. So on Halloween, which has nothing to do, I've seen stuff on this that doesn't correlate with the low vibration spirits. Halloween is not an energetic holiday. It is an actual made up holiday, although people use it for rituals and whatever. We're going to have it going into retrograde from the 31st until the 20th. Then it's going to be heading back the correct way again. So you are looking at, I don't know how many days is that? At least a few weeks, around the 31st until the 20th, about 3 weeks or so, where you're going to feel that energy going backwards, okay? So we're going to get into how that's going to cause any issues for anybody, but there's some good parts about it too. So anyways, when the energy starts to shift, especially with empaths, and I notice this with different energetic shifts, not always with Mercury retrograde, but it tends to be a pattern sometimes. When it starts to pull back, when it starts to get to where it's going to head in another direction, it actually affects your spiritual body. And your spiritual body starts to feel, it starts to affect your spiritual body, and then it actually goes into your physical body. That's what I was trying to say. So your physical body, because your energetic body is reacting to it, before we were having very free-flowing energy with your spiritual body, now it's starting to slow down. That can cause aches and pains in the body. So it's something that you may have noticed earlier, not just now. So I'm trying to see. This is something I started noticing probably last week or the week before. I started noticing I was really feeling, and that's actually the pre-shadow phase, I was noticing that I was really feeling a lot more achy than normal, which was weird to me in a sense, because I wasn't paying attention to Mercury retrograde. And then I was like, oh yeah, that's what's going on. Because of course I had to look into it and realize that they were in correlation. Head stuff. Head stuff is another thing that you might be feeling going on right about now with this type of thing. So if you're an empath, if you're really sensitive to this universal energy shift, you might be feeling achy, more than usual, achy pains, muscles, joints, bones, whatever, head stuff, head colds, head stuffiness, anything head related. And then, of course, my most favorite thing, but not really, is sleep disruption, which is actually going to lead into the irritability. There's going to be a lot of disrupted sleep patterns going on right now because of the energy, the low vibration energy, spiritual energy is really affecting that. And there's an undertone of irritability with this part of Mercury retrograde right now. So you will definitely pick up on that energy, that irritable energy, while you're sleeping, because that's when you're tuned into your spiritual body. So again, when you're sleeping, you tune into all the universal energy, all the high spiritual energy that's around you. And because there's high energy, it makes it harder to sleep. You don't want such high activity. It'd be like trying to sleep in a conference room full of like 200 people talking. So when the energy frequency or gets higher, and I don't mean the frequency, but like the energy itself, it's more intense, I guess I would say. The frequency is lower, but it's more intense. So imagine sleeping in a conference room of 200 kind of irritated people talking. That's kind of what it's like while you're sleeping right now. They're very irritable, and this is the energy you feel. You don't have to be engaged in it or hear exactly what they're saying, but your spiritual body is definitely very aware that this is happening. So, along with all of this, you may also notice irritability with people in their waking hours as well, like just friends, family, coworkers, somebody at Target, whatever. That's another thing that you may notice, is them being a little bit more snippy than normal. So this is a time of transformation, however, and that is something that a lot of people overlook with Mercury retrograde, but that's really what's happening right now, is it's a time of transformation. And so there's probably a lot going on with your life, or there could be a lot going on with your life where things are shifting and or changing for you, just different things. It could be something just currently happening, or it could be more of a long-term thing. But there's something in your life experience that is most likely shifting, or this is, if it's going to, this would be sort of the time that it's shifting. So because of this, and because we've talked about the money energy, it's also a very good time to budget and revisit or revamp your finances. So this is something that you'll want to pay attention to during this time right now, is if you're feeling any kind of money stress, or even if you're not feeling money stress and you're just planning and manifesting for the future, now's a really good time to just put the numbers down and to look at them, rework them in a way that you're happy with, and just, revisit where you're spending your money, or where you want to be spending your money, or what type of money that you want to be coming in. All of these things, like how are you going to get the money? What money do you currently have? What do you plan for your future money situation? This is actually a super good time to do that, because two things are going on right now. One, we have all this transformational energy, and two, this is a super high creative time. And that goes along with manifestation stuff. The problem is when we're manifesting during this time, like for instance, I'm creating classes, which weirdly enough, I never look forward to the calendar. I always do everything by intuitive feel, not astrological charts. It's weird. I actually go by feel, and then later I go, weird. That matched that astrological chart. So I don't know what in the world happens, but every single time I'm creating a class, I kid you not, when I get to the really core stuff of it, like the recording and all that kind of stuff, it is always during Mercury retrograde. It is so weird. Maybe I should start looking at that the other way. But I have so many issues then. The amount of recording, I did a 30-minute class video class and slide class that literally took me 6 hours because the amount of technical difficulties I was having. I thought, if Spirit's trying to break me, I kid you not, this is it. But I also felt this internal desire to just beat it, which is weird, and just push through until it was completed. And so you may find in your situation or in your life that you're really on track with something and the creative energy is flowing, and you may have been doing past work to be leading up to this time frame right now. And then you might find that, oh my gosh, why am I running into all these problems right now? Like, this is not okay. But normally, I would tell you to just chill for a minute and just relax and let this pass. But this is really a time to push through and to push past any difficulties that you are having. Take a break, go do something else. So for instance, here's what I did. I was having such a hard time, and I'm talking about a meltdown to tears, because when you do that much recording, you have to put a lot of energy into it. And when it just, your recording doesn't work, and you keep running into issues right in the middle of your recording, it just was a lot. And so I just was like, okay, I have to stop. I'm going to go have a really nice lunch, and I'm just going to come back and then deal with whatever issues I'm having. So that's what I did. But then when I get into situations where I know that I need to push through and I'm coming up against some energetic or spiritual resistance, then I know is really there to kind of just cause me some blocks and difficulty, but it's not supposed to stop me. I do what I call opposite day. I do everything the opposite of what I've been doing. I shift my energetic pattern. So when you do things throughout the day, you're creating an energetic pattern. And a lot of people create habits and patterns of when they sleep, time frames. I normally go to bed at this time. I normally wake up at this time. I normally take showers in the morning or at night. I eat on this type of schedule, or, I eat in for lunch every day and then I make dinner, whatever. You tend to form these energetic patterns. And when I find that I'm getting some blocks like this, to me, it's very easy for any blocks to happen if my pattern is completely the same all the time. And so I like it being the same most of the time, but when I start having issues with it, I do opposite day. So I normally shower at night because I do not, as an empath, I do not like to carry that energy to bed because that affects me a lot. I don't like it. So I'm just like, okay, I'm showering in the morning. I am recording at the complete opposite time than I normally would record. I am going to, instead of eating lunch at the house, I'm going to eat lunch out. Every single thing that I would do, I'm like, okay, the way I wore my hair that day, I'm changing that tomorrow. Everything. It doesn't matter. And then of course I do the clearing with the incense and all that stuff. I'm like clearing my computers and all that. But I did that and it went way better. And then I continued to switch up things the next day and it continued to get better. So that's what I do. I like to switch up my energetic patterns, especially when we have some new energy coming in and trying to disrupt our path, because we're really readable when we do that. We want to mix things up. So they're finding it difficult. Spirit interference is finding it difficult because they're not reading your energetic pattern, and they're like, okay, well, normally this is their behavior or her behavior, and now it's shifting, and oh, this is becoming a lot of work. Then they'll go bother somebody else. So this is a time of transformation. So you're going to be noticing that you might have problems with completing stuff and blocks, but push through it. You can push through it. Do an opposite day. Take a break. Give yourself mini breaks in there, but it's not a time to stop. It's basically a time to conquer right now. And that is really, really not what I normally say. For those of you who follow me, you're probably like, that's weird. Good time to budget and revisit finances. Decision making. That's another thing. People are finding that there's a lot of decision making to be done. And what I'm noticing about that is these decisions have the appearance of being a super huge deal, but the perception is what's making it a super huge deal. And so you don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill just by your perception. So I'm noticing that a lot of people who are running across big decision making right now, they kind of travel down a rabbit hole of all these horrible things that could happen if they do this or do that, or what if they do this or this could happen, and what about that, and oh my gosh. And then when they realize, I've actually worked through this with some people recently, and I have to bring them back to square one and go, okay, before you go down that rabbit hole, I think that number one, you're making too big a deal out of this, and number two, you need to really revisit what you're going to do with this decision first, because most of the time you're going to alleviate any going down the rabbit hole, because you'll make a decision that is going to be a lighter decision. What I mean by that is it might be something like, if you're thinking about doing something and then you're like, what if this happens and that happens and it gets worse and bad and this? And then if you come to the decision part and realize you really didn't want to do that thing anyways, going down that whole rabbit hole was just nonsense. There was no reason to go down the rabbit hole. Do you see what I mean? So you want to really revisit the first part of your decision making first, because you'll most likely realize that the decision is actually pretty light and you're going down the rabbit hole for no reason. You probably weren't even going to go that way anyway with your decision, if that makes sense. And then the last thing is the creative factor, of course. I am almost the most creative during Mercury Retrograde. So where everybody feels like, it does, don't get me wrong, it's not a comfortable time for me always, obviously. The aches and pains, the opposite day, the high, low vibration spirit activity, and all the non-sleep stuff. But with it, I'm always way more creative than normal. I have a lot more ideas that come than normal. I am very in tune with my creative side. And it's usually a good transformational time to then shift some things, like I said, with the finances and all that. So there can be some really cool stuff with it if you can just keep your mental perception in check to where you just don't plummet down the rabbit hole, basically. That kind of all actually goes together now that I think about it. You're creative in this creative transformational time. You can revamp some things. You might not be physically comfortable doing it. Don't make things bigger than it is, and power through. So hopefully that was helpful and made sense to you. Anyways. Oh, and then of course we're going to get to the part eventually here between the 31st and 20th where everything feels like it might be taking forever, but that's okay. It's fine. It's still on pace. Doesn't mean things are going to turn out bad. Don't even worry about it. Anyways, for those of you who enjoy the podcast, I think I forgot to mention it the last time, but don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell if it's on YouTube. If you want my energy reports, for sure, do that. And then my spirit chat text, which I will be sending out one today on kind of what's going on with its energy anyways. So I will have all this information below. And for those of you who are interested in learning from me, my systems and stuff with empath stuff, you will definitely want to get on my email list if you're not on there. I need to put a different way to get on my email list. But you can go over to empowered-empath.com, or you can go to Empath University, which is a really good place to go, and just enter your email and get on the wait list, because the people who are on these lists are going to get a pretty huge discount when the Empowered Empath course is published, or like to the public, and it's going to be something that's just offered to the list, and then it will be, I think, 10 days or something So it's definitely something that you're going to want to watch for. If you're interested in that psychic stuff at all, that $35 deal is insane. Like it's the best deal. So those are some things that you'll want to watch for. And I have some really cool, I'm really excited about the class. I know I talk about this all the time, but it's literally my life right now. So it's kind of like, that's just, I talk about it with everybody. If you were like in my circle of friends and family, you would hear about it every day. But on the one that it took me 6 hours to do, I was telling people that I literally thought about scrapping that section. And I sent it to Lydia, my assistant, and said, will you just look at this? I don't even know if this makes sense because I was having so much trouble. And she sent me an email back that said, oh my God, this is incredible. And so that's some of the stuff that you need to know about with dealing with Mercury retrograde. Is some of my best stuff has come out even after I pushed through. Even some of my podcasts. There's been podcasts, the podcasts that I always do that I'm like, I really don't even know if one person is going to find this helpful whatsoever, but whatever, I'll just throw it out there anyways. I kid you not, I will get text messages from people I know going, wow, that was awesome and thank you. So keep that in mind with your own situation, especially with Mercury retrograde going on right now. Because of the energy with Mercury retrograde, we're used to, as empaths and whatnot, we're used to feeling everything flowing nice and that being an indication of everything working out really wonderfully. Well, when we get in universal energy such as this, the flow of energy may not feel nice, but it doesn't mean that the outcome might not be super incredible, because there are some incredible stuff that comes along with Mercury retrograde, with the transformation and the creative energy and all that kind of stuff. So don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged. Anyways, get on the email list, subscribe if you enjoy, and I hope to see you in class soon. Have the most amazing day. Aloha.